All right, we're live on YouTube. So Ally, would you please call the roll?
Craig Leggett.
Quit.
All right, we're live on YouTube.
Oh wait, hold
So
on.
Ally, would you please call the roll?
Hold on. Got issues here. Okay, let me start over again. Craig Leggett.
Here.
Michael Biddle.
Yep.
Ryan is not with us. Michael Grasso.
Present.
Ginny Sullivan. Here. Oh, okay. Dan Bruno.
Here.
Nick Caimano.
Here.
Dave O'Brien.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve the minutes of January 19th, 2021 IDA board meeting.
So move.
Moved by Craig. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Caimano. Any omissions, corrections?
If I may, on the one where we were picking up the Fort Edward parcel, if you could just throw in the detail, I think that was the 0.06 acre one, just
Okay.
for a little reference there. So, yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Ally, you got that?
I do.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other omissions, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. We have the current accounts payable. Could you please review the current accounts payable?
One thing I would like to add, at the time when I sent out the agenda, I hadn't received the invoice from FMBF yet. And I would like to state that that is an additional for the January payables, an additional $2,887.40. As you'll see on the agenda, it's blank there. But I did receive that invoice.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions on this?
And all the pilots and pass-throughs, how, we pretty good on all of that?
Well, the ones listed are the ones that I have received. There are 4 that I have not received yet, but they did receive revised invoices with the January 1% late fee as incurred by the county, not us. Tribals, ICC4, which we'll talk about later on in the program. Ray Terminal and Greenwich Preservation are the ones that are missing at this point.
Okay.
You have one Greenwich Preservation here, Ally.
All right.
And Ray's not there.
I can't, right. All right, hold on. I've got my little chart right here. I have Greenwich Preservation not being received, so I'll check that out. That might be a misprint.
Okay. Okay, entertain a motion to approve these payables.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Leggett, second by Mr. Bruno. This will be a roll call vote.
Craig Leggett,
Yes.
Michael Biddle,
Yes, ma'am.
Mike Grasso,
Yes.
Ginny Sullivan,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Nick Caimano,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes, but one note, I filled in Mr. Caimano's mileage, but didn't change anything. Just puts his name on there, so with the 0, so he's all set now. He can't complain about not getting paid.
Thank you.
Carrie. Okay, I'd like to move something up. I see Bill Nickus is here for Sandy Hill tax extension. So I'd like to move that up so Bill can leave if he needs to. It won't take up a lot of his time. So basically, Carrie, you want to state what's going on and what Mr. Nichols' request was for Sandy Hill?
Sure. So the project, Sandy Hill in Hudson Falls, the sales tax exemption expired in September of last year. When Bill ran his numbers, he has, his project cost has increased above his estimate. The estimate in the application was $1 million. And he is submitted a letter at our request. We asked him to submit a letter indicating what transpired and what he's requesting. So the total project now exceeds $2 million. Of that, he's asking for an increase in his sales tax authorization from $500,000 in purchases to $610,000 in purchases. So he is requesting that we increase the authorization. One question I had for Bill was that in his letter, or I think it's in this letter, he indicated, Bill, you indicated that the restaurant isn't completed yet because of the pandemic. Is this sales tax going to be used for that restaurant? So we extend it out to allow for that completion?
No, I don't think that'd be necessary, Kara, because what's there will be added to by the tenant. So it won't be an LLC expenditure.
Okay.
And the only difference from what you just described was the capital costs are actually 1.7. I backed out the purchase price. I don't think that qualifies.
Okay.
Okay. So what does that do to the numbers?
So the total project would be 1.7 as opposed to the 1. So that would be $52.50 admin fee if you're going to charge that.
Okay. So that means an admin fee of $52.50, and he would gain the additional, he's already paid. I figured it the wrong way. What would the additional admin fee based on that?
On the 700,000, $52.50.
$52.50.
And he already paid at the time of our original closing, $7,500 plus legal.
Okay, so in the bottom line, is he still gaining about $3,000 from doing this from relief from sales tax,
Right.
correct? So
Right.
those are rough numbers, Bill.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. So any questions from the board on this? Yes, Craig?
He's on mute.
You're muted, Craig.
Aren't we lucky?
Thanks. For this resolution, will we have actual numbers here, or is this just to extend? Will it be the 5250?
The resolution indicates that the company will pay for any additional admin fee. The existing the existing closing documents say that at the end of the project, if the project goes over the original cost, then the company is required to pay any additional admin fees. So I think, I don't know what section it is, but it's towards the bottom. It says that he'll be required to pay any admin fees and legal fees, but we can certainly clarify that amount. I'll have to make an adjustment to the resolution because it indicates that the project is $2 million. So I'll have to make that modification to 1.7.
Okay. So the resolution to accept this will have as modified.
Yeah, I can add that. Certainly I can add the admin fee too.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
thank you.
having been through the building on several occasions with Mr. Nickus through the construction progress, first of all, the amount of time and energy, put aside the money, the amount of time and energy that Mr. Nickus has put into this project is phenomenal. His commitment to the building, but also the greater community, is outstanding. And my opinion, we're lucky to have Mr. Nickus in Hudson Falls and in Washington County doing these type of things. Secondly, it is very normal, especially in New York State, when you start peeling back walls, and Mr. Nickus could certainly attest to this, and starting to get into things like ripping the roof off and then realizing a lot more needs to be done. This is pretty standard in New York that unfortunately, the rising costs and so on, but with an old building, when you peel things away, oftentimes there's more surprises there than you would ever think about. Mr. Bruno could certainly attest to that through the planning board in Glens Falls.
Absolutely. And my personal experience.
And your personal experience. And I wholeheartedly, want to thank Mr. Nickus for his commitment to the area. And secondly, I, for one, very, very pro extending this extension.
I think Bill should be credited for taking a dilapidated building and making it a center point of Hudson Falls. Certainly is good to have that building occupied again.
Is the restaurant going to still happen?
Yes, my prospective tenants who want to do an Italian restaurant, a gentleman and his fiance, are still committed. Of course, nobody's crazy enough today to open up a restaurant until this pandemic has gone by us.
Okay.
Yeah, but they certainly can't open with 25% or 50% capacity.
Correct.
So entertain a motion to approve the amendment, approve the resolution as amended with the numbers.
I'll move it.
Mr. Biddle, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Leggett? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks, Bill.
Oh, thank all of you. Thanks, Mr. Biddle, for those nice words. The 1 million was a wishful thinking estimate. And you're right, when we peeled back the onion, it was quite a project. But hopefully you'll all come down and visit us. I think you'll be impressed with what it looks like today. So thank you all very much. I appreciate your time.
And several members have requested being able to go see the building again, so I'll leave that to Bill and to Mr. Biddle to coordinate, if you would, please.
That would be great.
My
Okay.
pleasure.
With that, shall I leave you?
Moving on, lot sales update.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Lot sales update, we've had interest in the park. That comes with good things, bad things. The first is that there are, until we get the delineation clarified, we'll talk about this in a minute, we basically have three or four lots to sell. Two of those lots are around the corner without any infrastructure going to them. So basically right now we have 2 lots available for sale and parts of others, which you have to configure. I am asking permission to add 4 more lots to the appraisal. As long as we can add them now at $200 a piece versus doing single one at once is would be $1,200 a parcel. So I'd like a motion to approve doing 4 more lots at a cost of $1,200. We do have interest in those lots. 3 of them are usable and saleable. So I'd like to get the appraisal fee now before we go forward. It takes a while to get appraisals, and so that's where we're at. So I entertain a motion to approve those 4 additional lots for appraisal.
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Biddle. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Nick, and second by Jenny. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So these are the 4 down around the corner, right in back of Equistock?
There's 3 behind us, Equistock, and there's 1 next to the current Roselle building on the
Yeah.
corner of Ferguson and Casey. Okay, Roselle wants to expand there with a new business, so that's why we're looking at that. And I'd rather get the appraisal done now than have to do it later.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We should probably have a roll call, sir, because of the amount of money.
Roll $800?
I don't know what the cut, sorry, I'm only the treasurer. What's the cutoff?
You're the treasurer. Ally, do a roll call, please.
She's on mute.
You're on mute, Ally.
Sorry,
Oh, there she is.
Craig
Go ahead
Megan,
and laugh at us, will you?
Aye.
Michael Biddle,
Yes, ma'am.
Michael Grasso,
Yes.
Ginny Sullivan,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Nick Caimano,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes. Carried. So expanding on this, we had the delineation done and we found a lot of areas that were wetter than we thought. We have approached both Deb Roberts, who did the delineations and worked on that property 20 years ago. Consider if she wanted to help us with it. She has decided that she cannot help us with this on an active basis. She will work on an advisory role in evaluating how we best move forward to reclassify these properties. NCS then called in John Connell, who is the engineer in charge of this area for wetlands. I think most of you were copied on the email where he sent out that he's looking for a time to meet with the IDA in terms of that. So the real issue is we have that substantial area we did for wetland mitigation for the Queensbury Airport expansion that never happened. So we're approaching if we can get that reclassified or use that to mitigate some of our other properties since it's not being used for mitigation for what was intended to be used for. That would be a discussion. I'd like to get this wrapped up as soon as possible, get an answer, because we do, as I said, we have interested parties. We really need to be able to tell them they can buy or not buy in some sort of a time frame. So with that in mind, I'd like to appoint a committee to work with NCS and Mr. Connell to work through this. I would suggest Mr. Grasso, Mr. Campbell, since he's a park chair, and myself, meet with them and get the information ongoing so we can bring back the information. If that's all right, I'll do that, and I will find times we can all meet and set up a time frame with them to look at to move this forward. Any questions or comments?
How soon are you looking to do this?
How soon? I'd like to do
Yes.
something next week.
I'm in Florida.
Again?
I liked it so much, I'm going back.
Well, it's gonna be by Zoom, Mike.
That'll be fine.
Yeah,
I can
it's
do
gonna be by Zoom. And I don't think a lot of us want to get together on that. So at least preliminary discussion. Let's start the preliminary discussion.
That'll work.
Okay? Good. And I told Mr. Campbell I was going to point him to something today. If he didn't show up, he got it. In line with that, NCS has sent us a proposal to work with us during this process. I think Ally sent it out. If you weren't copied on it before, is the rates they'll charge us to help us with this. This is just the interim until we find out what the project actually is. Then we ask for a proposal on doing the entire project together. Their rates are shown: senior ecologist is 125, assistant ecologist is 115, field technician 75, draftsman 50, and clerical 25. So that's the terms and conditions. So if it meets everyone's fancy, we really need to resolve this to see what we can sell and we can't sell, and what we can mitigate in terms of that, or else we really have nothing to sell down there, and we'll look at it. So I'll ask for a resolution to approve that contract.
So moved.
Who's that?
Mike Grasso.
Mike Grasso moved it. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Nick and second by Dan Bruno. Any other conversation, discussion?
On this contract, can we get their address put on it somewhere onto the agreement?
Okay. I will make sure that's on there.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Craig Leggett,
Yes.
Michael Biddle,
He quit. He's on mute.
Mike Grasso,
Yes.
Ginny Sullivan,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Nick Caimano,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien,
Yes. Do we have 6 ayes?
we do.
Thank you. Then it passes. We'll keep informed what's going on there. I hope that this doesn't become too complex, but we'll see. There's one thing I was thinking about when I did this, is that we did quote a price to a company who was interested in buying that entire back section. We have in our literature that it's $25,000 an acre, but that includes infrastructure. There is no infrastructure back there. So when the appraisal comes back, I want to let people know that I don't believe the appraisal is going to come in that high because of the area. Normally, when I talk to one real estate agent, it would be between $3,000 and $7,000 an acre. So we have to be cognizant of that when we go forward. So we'll see what the appraisal comes in, but that will drive the sales price if they go forward with the sale. Okay. And I certainly
Dave?
don't want to, yes.
So the environmental we're gonna have done was that gonna contemplate possibly opening up those culverts that were plugged because of the airport runway?
That's going to contemplate, yes, how we deal with that mitigation area.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So I think the trade-off is these two things. It's because we built those wetlands for the airport. It was used for potential mitigation over there. We may not, how do I want to say this? We may not drain that. We may use that as mitigation for other properties that are wetlands. So that's part of the discussion.
Can we bank that?
That's what these conversations are about, Mike.
Okay,
You bank it or not. So I don't want to say one thing. I've heard 3 or 4 things can be done with it. Let's get the experts involved, and that's a good question. Okay. Okay. Next area is parcels containing the road acquisition. All those parcels are in our name. The original agreement was that we would wait until January so that WCC could take their tax write-off. We met those dates. Unfortunately, COVID dragged it out for another 3 weeks because people were sick and the offices closed down. So we did get it done 3 weeks late, but it was done. We are waiting on final receipt of the one tiny piece of property that Fort Edward's going to give us. The board has approved it, as Mr. Losa knows, and we're waiting for the attorney who has sent us the documents. We're just waiting on receipt. So we will be filing these next week sometime before the March 1st deadline, which is very important. Okay. Sales and marketing, any updates, Dan?
Oh, nothing. I don't know if people wanted to get together in person to discuss what we started out with last year. If not, I guess we could do something by Zoom, but maybe if we did that, maybe Ally, I don't know if you're the one that sets that up. Maybe we could do that. I don't know how people feel, whether we meet in person or.
I'd rather do Zoom. I think take less time, less travel. We can put things in a better time for people, so we don't have to build in travel time.
Okay. Ally, do you set the Zoom stuff up?
Yeah, just
Oh, okay.
the information and I'll make sure one gets sent out. everyone gets invited.
Okay, thanks. I'll do that within the next week or two, for
Okay.
sure. We can just look back. We've only had that one meeting at Mr. Grasso's office. We can pick up from there, I guess, or, and talk about some new ideas.
Okay. Regulatory member, Ally, this is yours.
Actually, I had a really nice surprise today. We have a couple of our members that are working on their training. Mr. Biddle and Mr. Campbell have been working on getting some of their information from red to black. So thank you for that. And since I did just receive this information today, I will have an updated member training result grid next meeting.
So I would appreciate you completing those who haven't completed them as soon as possible, because in about 60 days, we're going to sign off with ABO on our PAAA reporting. And one of the questions is, has your members done their training? So anyone who hasn't, please accomplish that training. If you need help, call Ally. She'll be more than glad to help you get this entire thing black.
And
Okay.
actually, that is just for the training. If I could also, another thing that I need to report to the ABO is the board member evaluation surveys. And at this point, Mr. Wild is aware that I'm expecting it. And also, Mr. Bruno, if you need a
Yeah.
copy of that, let me know and I can send it to you.
No, I've got it. I just haven't been lax in getting that. Now, I will get it to you. Additionally, I'll complete the training.
Okay, thank you.
Ally, the next one's yours too.
ICC 4. Okay, so we're making progress with this one. I did receive the village and school taxes for 2020 for the ICC 4 West Main project. And I am awaiting, I'm in contact with Mr. Scalia as long as when updates come, which is amazing. And I am just waiting for the town and county taxes for the year 2021. And then he will be up to date with all of his taxes. And he does plan on having that paid in February.
Good. Good job, Ally. Next is TDI application. Our attorney submitted our response to them and the response to from the towns, so that they will be getting back to him to set up a date to discuss this. And once we have information from them, we can proceed forward. Executive director. We went over this executive committee, but I'll turn this over to Craig, since he did we sent out information on what he collected, but he did a pretty good job of starting to get a matrix together of different counties. So Craig, if you want to cover this, please.
Sure, thanks. Sorry, I don't have more to report. There is that matrix on how different IDAs are organized. I have my binder here with all the tabs for the 14 different counties. And it's just a matter of follow-up with them to see what the ins and outs, the more particulars of the, let's call there's 3 major structures out there. So I will continue to work on that, so our leader, Mr. O'Brien here, doesn't have to weather through so much work. Maybe there's some, we can, before the end of the year, get some help in here.
Okay. Any questions for Craig?
Mr. Chairman, back on the TDI application, is that time sensitive? Is that project got anything, deadline to it or start date?
They have deadlines. It seems to be floating deadlines, though.
Okay.
I mean, this is a tremendously large project, and there's a lot of different aspects to it. So we'll see. The amazing thing, the one thing I understand is that they haven't completed their agreements on the output from Montreal, nor the input into New York City. So I'm not sure where those stand. We did ask for requests on things, and essentially it's in the attorney's hands right now. Joe Scott and Miss Kara and our other representative from Ellen Smith, who's the next COO of National Grid. So she's been extremely helpful in this entire process. Okay, Sandy Hill Extension we covered. Glens Falls Housing put in a request that normally we do not include fuel in our sales tax relief. They've requested if we would include fuel in the sales tax. So they will get relief from the fuel. So I would entertain a motion to the board, from the board, if they want to extend that courtesy to them or not.
What's the thinking?
I'll go to Karen. Normally we don't do this. Is that correct?
It's a separate item on the ST60 form to mark. I think the thought process is that the sales tax is usually extended for items that go into the creation, the improvement itself, and that remain at the facility. Though you do authorize sales tax relief on rentals for rental equipment and such. So that would be along the same lines. There are other ideas that extend this sales tax to fuel. I guess from your perspective, the difficulty is tracking it and making sure that the fuel utilized is specifically for this project. If it's on site or whatnot.
In a way, we could say the same thing about equipment rentals and everything else.
Right. Same idea.
Well, equipment rentals are usually rented, and on the rental, it specifies a location. So fuel would be, I don't know, it's kind of tough to keep track to that.
Yeah, and this is fuel to run the towers while they're renovating them, or fuel for what?
I think it's fuel to run the equipment on site. And this is what $62 million project altogether.
Yeah.
So I think there'd be for in a sense, what's affordable housing would be another extension of them to help defer the cost in terms of that. It's up to the board. And, I just asked a request in terms of that.
So this project involves a substantial amount of demolition, doesn't it?
Of what?
Demolition.
Substantial amount of demolition and heavy equipment operation.
One facility was completely destroyed, razed to the ground. Other facilities, portions are going to be deconstructed.
So there's a lot of trucking of debris to landfills, et cetera, et cetera. So that fuel could be substantial.
And if there is asbestos mitigation in there, they're going to have to go substantial distances with fuel. I mean, the closest area I know is Rochester.
Right.
Take it. The other place is up in it's not Montpelier, Vermont, but it's up close to the border in Vermont. So they are two long distances. There might be a place in Plattsburgh, but I'm not quite sure about that. I know when we had a couple of buildings torn down in Granville, they had taken stuff to Rochester.
Is there any way we can somehow have documentation, substantial documentation to show the fuel is used at these sites?
Yeah, we can certainly require that.
Okay.
Okay. So what's the pleasure of the board? A motion to approve their request?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mike. Do I have a second?
And the request is what? Say it
Is
again.
sales tax relief on fuel during the construction phase and demolition stage.
Yeah.
Can I get a second?
Silence of the Lambs.
I'm not inclined to support this one if this is not something we typically do. You know, I think of Fowler Square, of all of the land work that's being done there. You know, would you extend fuel out to that as well? Any of these other projects we have, I don't know, Etane, they're not going for sales tax. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is different though. This is not a for-profit corporation. This is a bailout of a situation that the feds have bailed us out on. So this is, I think it's a different arena. We're not looking at a profit motive, so to speak.
I would have thought that the state would approve that too, because the state would normally have given the sales tax relief, not
Right.
us.
Right.
We got sort of pushed into it, so to speak, the rescue. So, I mean, I'm okay either way, but I think if it wasn't affordable housing, I think I'd look at it differently.
So this would be sales tax relief to the vendors, to the subcontractors. If I was a subcontractor on this site, I would be getting, I wouldn't have to pay tax on my diesel fuel, let's say.
The sales tax, still have to pay fuel tax. And what's the other tax? Sales tax, fuel tax,
Excise.
Excise.
They still have to pay those other two, just relief on the sales tax.
What kind of numbers are we talking about? Do anybody know?
Good question.
No idea.
It's almost impossible to estimate because they don't know how much of the debris has to be taken out to the western part of the state. You know, this is just one of those things that you do it on faith because it's a good project. It's affordable housing. And, you know, every time we can save them, I'm sure helps.
Right. So my question is this for all the vendors, for all the subcontractors on the job? Or is it going to be just for the Glens Falls Housing Authority?
Well, all this work is being done by contractors and subcontractors.
Right. That's right.
So, yeah. They're really going to reduce the cost of the construction?
So let me interject. The rationale here would be that if the contractors don't have to pay this tax, then that is passed on to the housing authority. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Thinking how you would track that. I mean, that's a question for the Audit and Finance Committee, but.
Well, I'm sure that the project managers and the people running this construction company are going to do a deduct based on they'll require probably fuel usage tickets and then do a deduct to the subcontractor. I'm sure they're not going to just say to the subcontractor, "Oh, you just made some more money on this job." They're asking for it, so I'm sure they're going to monitor it and deduct from the subcontractor to save their cost.
Okay.
Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense for them to ask for it.
Right.
That would have to be a requirement
What?
that they track it, monitor it.
Yeah.
And deduct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was good thought.
Otherwise, it's a blank check.
I know that I'm familiar with WEX programs, which is the WEX fleet programs. And a lot of major contractors use those because what happens is they actually, when a truck pulls up to the pump, they have a card they swipe to put in, and every month the report comes back what basically what category taxes were all involved in that. So they actually have those, if they use the system with fleet cards, they have that information that's provided for them, what cost per tank was done. So They gotta be tracking that, they gotta be tracking that for taxation purposes anyways. So I'm all right either way, so. Still don't have a second, so if I don't have a second, it dies.
Well, I hate to hurt the association down there, but it's just, I don't know how would we do this? How would we do this? Just give them a check for the tax?
They'll do.
We
They
don't
will.
give the check.
What, Mike?
They'll monitor it and probably submit documentation to us. They'd have to.
Yeah, they have to submit the documentation, just like they submit the ST 340s for all their sales tax. So they're gonna have to track it on their end.
They have to track and report it to us every year anyways. Any type of sales tax relief, they have to report to us on an annual basis, so it would be included in those numbers. So we're not.
Why do they have to report now?
What's that?
Why do they have to report now? Every year?
Why do they have to report?
Yeah, why? To us?
Because we have a cap on the sales tax we allow them to take. In our closing documentations, we mentioned that figure. They have to report to us just like Mr. Nickus had to report to us. He went over, he had to come back for approval to report it on reporting. So every year, Ally can say she has to get those numbers and get that ST 340 on an annual basis. If she doesn't get it, we have to get it back from them. They report to us what they've used in that sales tax. So we know if we went over or not.
Not only do they report to us, they also report directly to tax and finance. That ST 340 is submitted to tax and finance.
Okay.
Okay. Still haven't heard no second. We will move on. The bridge on the dewatering facility. We had on the dewatering facility, the bridge is now inventoried in the New York State inventory. What that means is, and this is something that we were unsure could have been done. It's taken 6 months to get to that point. The bridge is now in the state inventory. What that means, it's open for federal funding, state funding, as well as March Excelli funding. So that also makes that a quasi-public road. So look at that. But in terms of that, we have the program came out, Bridge New York. And Deb Donnie, who was DPW superintendent in Washington County, said this would be a great project for Bridge New York. She called the people at Bridge New York who said, yes, this is a very good project for replacement for Bridge New York. So she has gotten a consultant who came up here last week. It's McLaughlin. I think it's McLaughlin. And I can't remember what the second part of it is, who's going to do the engineering study and request to Bridge New York. As part of this, we have no commitment to pay them unless the bridge is funded, and then payment comes out of the funding. The difference between this and what we're doing before is this is a 5% match versus a 20% match if we use both the NBRC funding, and we are lucky enough to get the EDA funding, which we'll still apply for because Bridge New York's not a slam dunk. They're up here, they're starting to prepare the documentation to submit. And as I said, we have no obligation till such point as the funding through Bridge New York is committed to. We also can, in the 5% match, we can use that as a, we can get services in kind to make that 5% match. I have a couple ideas to do that. So it could not end up being a negative cost or a break-even cost for the IDA, except for some time with Valley's in mind, and we'll see there. Admin will probably be done by the regional planning board since they put so much effort, and they'll get administrative payment out of that also. So we'll see that. So that's the news on Bridge New York. We're very fortunate to get it in the inventory. And if and when that bridge has to be replaced, in 6, 8, 10 years, it will be eligible for New York State funding. But basically, there's a political situation where we've said that the bridge needs to be replaced. I think it's been a little bit of a detraction for people wanting to go in there, that the bridge was not a permanent bridge. So getting this to be a permanent bridge as soon as possible is going to increase the marketability of that property. And will solve one of our issues, because once the bridge is replaced, we can then transfer that piece of property to another community. So that's a drive on that. So that's the status on that. I've had nothing to sign, so I don't have to come to the board. I will come to the board if there's any way I have to sign anything. But it's good that, is it McLaughlin, Dan? Is it McLaughlin, the engineering firm down in Colony?
I'm not sure.
The representative is Laura Sandy.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Dave.
No, anyhow, I'll look it up. So. Laura Sandy is no, I can't find the name on their email. I know it's McLaughlin or McFarland, one or the other. One of those two.
Probably McFarland Johnson.
McFarland. Okay. Okay. Any questions on that? Last item on my agenda is apartments. We've had a couple of requests for apartments. We will start. We do not have a policy on apartments. Fowler Square came under multi-use and a PUD, so that's why they qualified. We should sit down and figure out what policy we want to put in place in apartments so that we are very clear in what we can and can't do. There are some types of apartments that might bring economic development to the area. I was talking to Mr. Leggett this morning. He said that in the North Country, there are areas that having apartment developments would contribute to the economic development of the area. And I think that's our driving force. Does it commit to the economic development of the area? So I think we have to put together a good set of policies that we follow on apartments or townhouses or whatever we're doing to give assistance to them versus doing a one-on-one basis. So we will look at that during the executive meeting. Hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have a policy proposed to the board. Okay, that's all I have. Anyone else have any questions? Comments?
I don't want to, I really feel badly that we are not doing something because we're not sure what to do with this thing downtown. I'm at a loss. I don't want to not help that whole project down there, but I'm at a loss to say, what is it going to cost us? How is it? How do we know? What do we know?
What is what going to cost us, Nick?
The tax, the sales tax.
Talking about the fuel tax?
Yeah, fuel tax.
You're back on the fuel tax. I'm talking about assistance and pilots to apartments.
No. Oh, I thought you were asking about anything now. I'm sorry,
No.
my fault.
Well, I was trying to concentrate on apartments and need to get a policy so we understand how we structure economic benefit from apartments. Like, I never thought what Craig talked about was a development up in his area would help bring industry and places for people to live up there, affordable places for people to live.
I got you. Well, Craig, let me ask you the question then. You have done some checking with other IDAs. Are there policies that you've run across from the other IDAs?
Haven't looked into that specifically, but to pick up on what you were saying about Glens Falls Housing Authority there, I guess, and Mike had brought up a good point. You know, this is a not-for-profit working to make affordable housing in the county. It's probably not a huge stretch for us to authorize fuel if it is directly involved with the construction costs. And Nick, as you were saying, it's how do you track that? But I don't know if that's our problem, because they are the ones that fill out the ST 340s and submit them. We get copied on that. I guess the question would be, would they just go over what we have contracted already with them, just like Mr. Nickus had done?
So that question, right now, they only submit what they spent. They're certifying to the state that's what they spent. They're not certified, they are providing us a copy of that. But it's up to them to monitor what they're spending and why they're spending it, because they're the ones who are subject to review by the state. We may get caught in the middle of it because they reported to us and we gave it to them, but our responsibility is to take their numbers, and if the state has an issue with what they're reporting, the state's the one that goes after us. We're not, in terms of sales tax, we're not
Responsible.
back after them.
What's that now, Mike?
We're not the responsible party for making sure that they've adhered to the law. So, basically, if they don't do it right, the state can come after them, not us, and that wouldn't be our problem. It would be their problem. So you can assume that they're going to do it correctly, that they're not going to be just willy-nilly putting in fuel for non-construction purposes, because they can be audited by the state.
And we're not responsible.
We went through this with a couple of companies who went over, and some we went back and audited ourselves and found out after requesting information from them, they actually didn't go out. They didn't go over. One of them didn't go over. They just misreported. The second company had to actually go back and readjust their readjust their claims, report back to tax and finance. And what they did was, instead of the contract, and Kara's going to kick me if I'm wrong, they reported both the sales tax that the contractor spent, as well as what they spent on their price chopper. And I think price chopper combined them. They had to go back and unwind that and report them correctly. And when they reported them correctly, they didn't go over. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's say we approve this, what are the requirements for documentation? What do they furnish to us in order to get, this is something we're going to reimburse them for, correct?
This is not reimbursement. This goes against their total. Right
Okay.
now, they're approved for $1 million in sales tax relief. That would be part of that $1 million sales tax relief.
So either way, what do we require regarding documentation? Anything?
They're required to submit to you the simultaneous with their submission to tax and finance, the ST 340. Your
Okay.
documents allow for you to request any backup documentation to prove those expenditures. You have the authority to request and review any of that, and they agree to provide that.
Thank you. I'm okay with that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So basically, we are lending the good name and will of the IDA, and we are not at risk financially.
No, there's no financially. This would just be including the sales tax on fuel into the description of what's an eligible purchase.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, why don't you ask for the question again?
I asked for a motion on the sales tax relief for fuel for Glens Falls Housing Authority.
My motion stands.
I'll second it.
The second by Nick. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Not a
Opposed?
roll call,
I'll do a roll call for you, Nick.
please.
Ally, please.
Craig Leggett,
Yes.
Michael Biddle,
Yes, ma'am.
Mike Grasso,
Yes.
Ginny Sullivan,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Nick Caimano,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes. Carried. And so apartments would come back with a proposed policy next meeting so we can do something about it. Okay, anything else come before the board?
Nope.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
What about the CDC meeting?
Oh, CDC, yes, well, I gotta call that to order, CDC meeting.
Later.
You can run, but you can't hide.
I'll call the CDC meeting to order. Ally, would you please do a roll call?
Craig Leggett,
Here.
Michael Biddle, Mr.
Michael?
Biddle,
Mr. Biddle?
I think he signed off.
No, he's there.
Oh, I'm still here.
hi, I see you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, now we
Okay.
can.
so you are here.
Yes,
Mr. Grasso,
physically.
Present.
Ginny Sullivan,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Here.
Nick Caimano,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien.
You left.
Oh, should
Okay,
have.
motion to approve the minutes of the last board meeting of January 19, 2021.
Move. Second.
By Craig, do I have a second? Dan Bruno? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And accounts payable, we stopped paying that, right, Ally?
As of February, but I mean, I already paid him January.
$100.
We have to approve this? We need to approve this, right?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. It was agreed, and Mr. McCarthy was fine with it, that we weren't going to pay him the CDC bookkeeping anymore, but that was in February. So what's on this agenda is actually for January. So,
Okay, then the answer is yes. We need a motion to approve this.
okay,
Yes.
Okay? All right, need a motion?
I'll move.
Dan Bruno, do I have a second?
Second.
Nick? Roll call?
Craig Leggett,
Yes.
Michael Biddle.
Yeah.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Ginny Sullivan,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Nick Caimano,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien.
Yes? The next two items are yours, Ally?
Exactly what I said for the IDA meeting.
Okay. Any new business? I don't have any new business. Anyone have anything else to bring up?
No, sir.
Nope.
Move to adjourn.
Move adjourned by Nick. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Be well, boys and girls.
Thank you for every,
You.